Hi, I'm Mike Chen. I am the author of Star Wars Outlaws Low Red Moon.
Hi, my name is Jay Rincon, and I voice ND-5 in the video game Star Wars Outlaws.
And I'm Eric Johnson, and I voice Jaylen Barsha slash Jaylen Vrax in Star Wars Outlaws and Star Wars Outlaws Low Red Moon.
Basically, I begged my way into it. When I when I got my literary agent, I signed with him in 2015, which is 11 years ago now. Uh, he and I talked about, okay, like what are my pie in the sky type projects beyond what he signed me for? And I said I would love to write Star Wars. I would love, in particular, to write like prequel Clone Wars era Star Wars. And so as he got to know the editorial team at what was then Del Rey, was now Random House Worlds, he would constantly bring me up, and he'd be like, "This guy really, really wants to do this," and this is yeah, this is the way to like, or this is the style of story that he writes. He writes really character driven stories. And I became friends with Delilah Dawson and Chuck Wendig and Rebecca Roanhorse. And they got to know me and got to know my writing style. And so they would actually throw my name in the hat too whenever they were talking with the editorial team. So in this business, it really helps to build a reputation of like, you have to be professional, you have to be nice, and you have to be speedy, because these IP projects are like really small windows of like 3 months to write a draft, which is,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty insane, and you have to take a lot of feedback in and iterate a lot. So they need someone that they can trust, and they have these anthologies called From a Certain Point of View. They do, it's like retelling the original trilogy but from like side characters.
Yeah.
And I got to write for the Empire Strikes Back one, and that was my kind of like go big or go home moment, where they were like, "Here's some characters remaining. You're a new author. You get to pick one, but you didn't get first dibs. Like you're in the middle round." And so I picked Emperor Palpatine because I was like, if I'm going to write Star Wars, this may be my only chance to do it. So I try to write something like pretty definitive, and that became my that led to my Clone Wars book, Brotherhood. So basically, just asking to get on and having people who supported me and trying to be good and develop a reputation of being like a good person in so that like when people recommended me, they're like, oh yeah, he does good work and he's easy to work with, which I don't think people value enough. It was in May 2024. I remember I got the call. I was actually doing school pickup, and my agent calls and he's like, Lucasfilm wants you back. And I was like, can we talk later? I'm trying to pick up my daughter. But I was like, but he goes, I wasn't sure what project it was going to be. And he's like, oh, for that upcoming video game. And I'm like, Star Wars Outlaws? That looks like the best video game of all time. Oh my God. And then I talked with Gabby Munoz, who's the main editor on it. We set up a call a few days later, and I actually got the project because I wrote a Marvel book with Moon Knight and Venom, and I gave all the Moon Knight personalities their own voice and perspective, and I gave Venom's own like voice and perspective. Venom was second person, which don't ever try that, writers. It's very difficult. Um, but so Gabby really liked how I was able to kind of take Venom's very unique perspective about being like a symbiote and an alien and be able to write a persona about it. And so Gabby wanted to see if I could do that with a droid perspective, because like even though droids have had scenes before, they've never had like a full novel like this extensive. So it was important to try to have someone who could think that way about like, how do I want to frame this person. So that's how it came about. And I'm really, really glad that I got to do it, because it was so fun to get into both of their heads. Like Jaylen experiencing like kind of the change from Republic to Empire, and then like going deep into the underworld, which is really fun to write because there's not a lot of defined stuff in there. So I got to play a lot. And then ND, who's just like this big robotic sweetheart that we just want good things for, and bad things keep happening.
I,
I
I,
think
s-
I saw it,
yeah, you
Jay.
saw
I
it.
think I saw it when you posted about this book on Instagram coming. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is so cool. That's how I first even knew that there was a book coming.
Right. I had no clue. I saw it posted on Instagram, and then I believe you, Eric, were the one that said, "We got to narrate this," like in a comment. And it's funny because I was actually just still so blown away that there was going to be more narrative, and I was going to hear more story about ND-5 and about Jaylen and about the world that we had worked on for so long. And when you said that, I was like, "He's brilliant. He's right. We should." I mean, obviously, I was excited, but I also thought, no, that is a really good idea. We should be the ones that narrate it. That's a brilliant concept. So that's how I learned about it.
I don't think anyone knows this yet, but I first brought up U2 in December of 2024. I checked my emails to see when I emailed the editorial team. Like we were just going through plotting. Like once we nailed in the plot, and I began drafting, and I said, you know, what'd be really cool is if we got them to do like the narration. And Tom from Random House World says that for these projects that have like either animation voice actors or video game voice actors, the audio team will like put their names on the list. But I said like, well, let's put this away for now because the
Oh,
audio
really?
doesn't the audio doesn't get made until really late. But so we revisited this back in August. Actually, it was coincidental. Jay, you messaged me right like the day before I was planning on actually messaging, reminding Tom and Gabby that like, hey, let's try to do this. Audio production is a separate department from like editorial, but like you guys, they talk all the time. And so I followed up with Gabby and I said, like, hey, I know Jay is really excited. He found out about the book. I think he would be up for it if logistically if it was made possible, and like maybe we can get Eric too. It would be so cool. So I
That's
don't know like chicken or the egg like how it came about, but I tried to grease the skids as much as possible.
Well,
very
thank you.
appreciated.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
very
very
much.
appreciated.
And
Yeah,
people
it was. I
freaked
was
out.
pretty very excited to hear about it, and like knowing that Jay was excited about it, and then I know it sounds like, oh, we get a chance to work together again, which we didn't. We're in audio booths in different
Yeah.
continents, but it was just the idea of being together again and doing a project together, and then getting a chance to read your fantastic book, Mike. It was like just and like all this amazing backstory about these characters, all these brilliant filling in of the blanks that existed, and the world building that went on of just the this incredible story. So that's yeah, I was pumped to get back into it.
People found out, and people were very excited.
They're completely different. I mean, I think from a voice perspective, doing an audio book in general is such difficult work. It's got to be the hardest voiceover work there is. You're reading nonstop. It's thousands and thousands of words. You're in the booth for hours. So the technical aspect of it is very different, and you're coming up with the different voices and the different energies for the other parts. And I think the thing that was difficult for me is you're flipping in between multiple accents and characters and voices right there in the go, like right on the go. So you need to be pretty sharp with all of those things. I think that we really can like probably think too much, but we can nitpick a single line or a single scene quite a bit inside of the medium, the volume when we're working on the video game from the perspective of the video game itself. It allows us a lot of time to really work on one concentrated moment where this is just so vast. But the other side of that is you have so much more information when you're reading the book. And so it's so easy to immerse yourself and be a storyteller. Also, I think, and you can speak to this, Eric, but I had to narrate from being ND-5. So I didn't get to speak as Jay. I had to narrate, which was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Having to maintain that character voice and read for hours and tell the story was I guess just technically like voice technically vocally, it was a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be.
I think to your point, Jay, I think, with when you're doing a video game or other voice work or even on set, in front of a camera, you're worried about being word perfect for a few lines. And then you get into the audiobook, and you need to be word perfect for hours and chapters,
Yeah.
and it's important because obviously we have to do Mike's work justice. There's no paraphrasing allowed.
Right.
And I sometimes can be a little loose with some of my lines on set. And so it's like, there's like, absolutely not. You got to get this right. And so it was a huge learning curve for me when that first day, that the sort of the intense focus. And I challenge anybody to sit there and pick up a book and start reading aloud and see how far they get before they start to feel it. And I found it to be a great test of focus, and then also voicing other characters. My biggest fear, honestly, was voicing some other characters and voicing the iconic ND-5 and trying to do Jay justice, which
Oh,
was like I just felt like
you're gonna be
it was
incredible.
like this is an impossible task. And I messaged Jay right away, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm trying, my friend. I'm doing my
Yeah.
best.
Well, and we're
And just
also, yeah,
trying to be.
and we're voicing people, obviously other parts that we know, right? People we know and their performances we know. And so honestly though, I had a lot of fun. So
I had a lot of fun
whether
too,
I
but
did you
it's like
justice, I don't know. But I was like, yeah, I get to be Eric now. This is
it was
really cool.
it was like we got to cosplay as each other
Yeah, yeah, it
for
was
a hot
really
minute.
fun.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah, it's a very different beast. I always had a great appreciation for it. I love audiobooks. I've listened to them for a long time, even back when they were on tape, which is really going back.
Whoa.
But it was a great way to listen to something on road trips. So I'm a huge fan. I have utmost more respect for it now, knowing what goes into those days in the audio booth, and all the technicians involved. And particularly what I love about these Star Wars ones is the added life that they add with music and some cues. And so just to really make it more immersive, and when we were doing our pickups and
Yeah.
and fixing a couple of things where I was not word perfect, getting to get a sample of that, it was just so exciting, and just the world building that it creates.
I have never done an audiobook before, and it's tremendous work. The people that do them on a regular basis are tremendously talented. But I have done audio dramas, and so I've heard like the bells and whistles and all of the presentation around it. But this was incredible. When I heard the pickups and I heard everything that was, I was like, play it all. I want to hear it right now. And I don't even think that's the finished product.
Well, we hope it's cohesive.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun to hear your chapters and to hear your performance. I'm sure it's gonna be incredible.
And you too.
I will say, because we're actors and it's a daunting task, and our job is to create a character and make it as natural and real as possible. That's what we do. You can kind of get ahead of yourself, and with an audiobook, you are telling the story and you are telling your version of these other characters. And I had to stop myself immediately and go, you're not actually being this other character. This is ND-5. This is ND-5's version of being this other character. And I think that kind of alleviates some pressure and allows you to just kind of be a bit freer with and more relaxed about telling the story. Because the important part is obviously telling the story and making sure that it's sensical and that it's entertaining. So that was part of the journey, I guess, for me. But still, yeah, as I said before, it was fun. And then because we did not speak to each other beforehand about who does what, because he recorded before me, I'd go into the booth and they're like, well, this character speaks with this accent. And I was like, what?
Sorry, buddy.
I was like, what accent? Okay, I guess I got to do that accent now.
Jay, did
Well,
you
I
know
knew.
I
Go
made
ahead,
Eric
Mike.
a cheat sheet of accents for the different
Yeah.
characters. So I don't know if was that a surprise to you?
No, so by the time we got to it, I think I was only like a day or two going in, and I was like, oh, I guess I hadn't even thought about it, right? What I'm ready to create characters, and then boom, we have
Yeah.
these accents. But still, and this kind of speaks to, again, we go back to it. I was like, yeah, of course I can do that accent. It'll be fine. It's not a big deal. You're talking like this person for hours. You know what I mean? Like and you're flipping from thing to thing. So all of my accents you're like, ooh, okay, everything's becoming muddled. My characters are becoming the same. Anyway, I'm kind of going around the same subject over and over again. But yes, Eric, you tell me.
Yeah, no, well, I had I knew that your like royal pronunciation British was gonna make mine sound terrible off the get-go. So like
No.
your proper like you were gonna nail that so hard, and I'm like, I don't know. And then, there's quite a few characters, and you're like, okay, I got to differentiate this somehow, and you're trying to figure it out, and like, and then you get the
Yeah.
cues, like, that's sounding a little like the other guy you did like 4 chapters
Yes.
ago. I'm like, okay, and like you're trying to make it work and give people like clear identifiers. When my kid was younger, I spent, time on the road working, and what I would do is I would record myself reading chapter books and send it to my kids, so like a bedtime story. And one of the first ones we ever did was like a Harry Potter. My kid hadn't seen the movie yet, and then my kid sees the movie and says, Dad, you didn't sound like Professor Snape. And I got all this like pretty harsh feedback from a
You got
6-year-old.
criticism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not
like,
Alan
yeah,
Rickman. What's up with that?
And Dad,
yeah, you didn't
that
quite nail
last
that,
chapter was
Dad.
2
And I'm
stars,
like,
bud.
yeah, exactly. So I figure I'm well calloused to some of the feedback we get, is if I didn't quite nail it, because it's happened before. But it is not without trying our absolute darndest to do it. So
Those things are universal. I mean, especially amongst Star Wars fans, I think they're going to understand what we're doing. I'm not worried about that whatsoever. I just, going back to what we said before, I enjoyed getting to do my impression of my colleagues. So that's what I really enjoyed.
I'm curious, without spoilers, there's several characters who have pretty prominent roles that are in existing, movies or TV shows. Did you guys watch clips or rewatch any
mhm.
material to get the accents down, or like the cadence of the voices?
I certainly tried. I mean, it's weird because it's not the exact same lines. It's
Mhm.
not the exact same situation, and you're trying to get it with also like not trying to make it comical. You want to make sure that it's still grounded in what you're doing, and not pushing yourself too far out of it. But yeah, it was the nights before refreshing, like, hey, what does that sound like? What does that sound like? And
Yes.
like making sure
Yeah, because
watching
you're
clips of Jay as
Mhm.
ND-5, and like going, like getting the reminders and going, okay, how am I going to do? And like you just hope that what's coming through your voice is going to be as close as possible. And obviously, there's different vocal registers, there's different, genders and scope, and in Star Wars, species that you're trying to be true to. So
right.
you're just doing your best.
And like I said, that's why I was like, just remind yourself, you're telling the story. This is just
Mhm.
you doing, an interpretation of this character voice. You're not being this character.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, I did the same thing. I listened to references, and much like Eric said, the words aren't the same, and those intentions aren't the same, because this is a different scenario. So you just kind of fall back on what you do as an actor. You just need to make sure that the performance is honest, and that performance is coming from the right place,
Mhm.
and then just trust and rely that it will be entertaining. So I was gonna say
Or they fix it
correct,
in post.
or they'll fix it in post. Yeah. We find out
They
we're
give
not
my
even in it.
droid an appropriate droid filter, so it sounds like a proper protocol to read.
I don't know if you guys saw the acknowledgments, but I wrote the acknowledgments before I knew you two were doing the voice work. And so like I put explicitly in there, like I feel like as a writer, voice is one of my strong suits. Like I can pick up voices. Like when I write original work, I will cast someone in there from a show because I can mimic it. It's like a little shortcut for me. So I
Mhm.
kept going back to like, does this sound like them? So if it feels like it sounded right for the characters for you,
Mhm.
then I did my job right.
Well, that was the other question too. Is you bring up a great point. Before I even showed up, and I didn't, before I read anything, I thought, wow, ND5 speaks purposefully, You know, it's direct, it's right to the point. He isn't gonna, you know, do what Jay does and fill his sentences with unnecessary words. And so we're gonna hear chapters of how he thinks. And I cannot wait to see how that process works. And so for you just answered it, obviously, that you put yourself in the mind of a droid because that's how he has to think, so that's how he speaks, and that's how that part of the story is told. It was really, really interesting.
There
And I
was
can,
there was some collaboration on that with Gabby and Tom, where we actually, and the people in the Lucasfilm story group, we actually had a conference call about this because it was really important
Yeah.
to nail, because it kind of builds the foundation for future storytelling from a droid perspective, which is
Mhm.
how much like computer speak is actually, are they going to be thinking in their inner monologue. So like we figured like C3PO is going to be different from ND-5. So ND being like purposeful and kind of, you know, blunt, but also kind of polite about it too. Like that was like built into the character, but the internal workings of how much description, how much like reflection, and how much sort of like pulling in extra context and stuff. And then also like when he's thinking like, you know, I retrieve like this memory from this, like how technical to be. They actually told me like at some point, like you can tell like I built my own computers when I was a kid because I was like thinking about like, well, you need like this hardware and this hardware, and they're like, no, that's real world like computer hardware, like don't mention that. Like come up with a Star Wars analog. And so
Mhm.
we actually pulled back a little bit on it because it was cutting the pacing down. Like there was a little bit too much technical description. So it was a team effort with that.
interesting. Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was obviously you made my job somewhat more difficult because I had to say it all, and I had to say it in one breath and in the way that ND-5 speaks. But it was really, really well done, and
Mhm.
I enjoyed, just as you spoke. You know, obviously C3PO, great example of a much the dynamically different droid in the way that they think and speak.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But I enjoyed trying to put as much through Andy's evolution to try and add as much humanity as possible and to add as much space and thought and
Mhm.
reflectiveness, his lost soul way, to really bring that out. It's and you did a great job of
Mhm.
putting that from pen to paper.
Oh,
So
thanks.
Every time Jaylen spoke, it was like getting back into a comfortable pair of shoes. Like you really nailed it, and it was it it was so easy, because it was so consistent and so like you said, your ability to pick up the voice of a character and translate it was so spot on. It was like a seamless dive into it. It there was such an ease to it, and for me, just a joy in terms of stepping back into Jaylen. And obviously we cover a scope of time in this where that, in terms of Jalen's life from a younger man to a little bit older. So it was fantastic to sort of feel that journey and give voice to that arc of Jaylen Vrax.
That's what I wanted to ask you, Eric, was he's so much more innocent, especially in the first part of the book. How did you take, you know, your performance, like, because you built this character, you know, being so much older and so much more experienced
Mhm.
and you know, jaded with the
Yeah.
galaxy. So how did you go back and find him as like a much more naive young man?
I think the jadedness that happens with Jaylen Vrax is because I think Jaylen was an idealist. Like he believed in people and he wanted to do the right thing. And he was set up in a system and in a family and in dynamics that were completely out of his control. And then the you what was something that I was proud about in the video game is I felt like we got to see moments of his heart and then how he betrays himself. And so where we started with Jaylen Vrax in this is a lot of heart. It's a lot of care and a lot of trying to do things for the right intentions. and really understanding of how someone could go from there to where we see him in Star Wars Outlaws. It's like the, best intentions kind of thing. Like he's trying to do his best, and then, it's not a friendly world out there in a galaxy far, far away.
And I don't want to give any spoilers of any kind, but the connection and who Jaylen was,
yeah,
you're like, this is it, it's tough. It's tough what's happened to him and what turns him into the person that he is in the video game. And so, yeah, it just makes it all the more compelling, right?
Yeah.
I get asked this question a lot, so I have kind of a stock answer for it. But it has literally been in my life since I was born. One of my earliest childhood photos, when I'm like 2 or 3 years old, is Christmas, and we have Empire Strikes Back toys, like the ion cannon playset and the snow speeder where the guns like fell off like right away. I have these core memories of seeing Return of the Jedi in the theater and being just like terrified when Vader's helmet gets removed. And like playing with Han Solo's blaster in the middle of Kmart with my mom telling me to put that away because she didn't want to buy it. And like all the way through like in high school, like when the Timothy Zahn books came out, and I was at Walden Books getting them like on release day. Yeah, Walden Books, man, at Oak Ridge Mall in San Jose. And my wife, like on our first date, she wore a Princess Leia T-shirt, and this is 2002, so the merch was not as prevalent then, and so it's something that, like, more so than any other fandom or franchise, has just been a part of my life. And being able to actually create in that and have people tell me that they really appreciate what I've put in there is it's unlike anything else, and I never thought that I would be able to do this.
That's amazing, Mike. I love that this was like on your dream
answer.
list. It was on your dream list when you got into writing of what world would it be fun to work in, and then you got to do this, not just once either. Like that you're now like and breaking new ground in the Star Wars world and creating new aspects of it. I think it's just awesome, just awesome.
Shoot your shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you, I think Star Wars is such a part of our shared mythology as a culture. Like it's so ingrained. Like there's so many references. There's so many iconic pieces of that world. And I remember this like I've been performing on camera since I was like 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. And there was a moment in my 20s when my brother says, "Why can't you do something cool? Why can't you do something cool? Like, I don't know, like a Star Wars." And I went, "Yeah, of course I would love to do a Star Wars. Are you kidding me? Who wouldn't love to do a Star Wars?" And so it's always been this, kind of that hope and impossible dream. It's like like everybody wants to do Star Wars. You don't know if you're going to get a chance. And first, when Star Wars Outlaws came out, what came into my world, I was like, I can't believe it. I'm officially stepping into the Star Wars universe. And then to get another crack at adding to it with more story of Jaylen Vrax and getting to be part of that, and seeing this saga of ND-5 and Jaylen and how they came to be. It's kind of pinch yourself moments, right? It's, again, like I said, I'm really proud of being on Wikipedia.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that, they both said it and nailed it. I remember having, the Star Wars cups from the Happy Meal from McDonald's. Yeah. And I wish I could get my hands on those again. They were incredible. But like, you grow up with it, and Eric, the way you said, it's part of our lore. And I still kind of, some days I'll just be like, I'm part of Star Wars. It's such an impressive, and it's such an amazing, galaxy and story. It's been such a massive part of all of our lives. I have to remind myself that I've played my small part in it, and in such a fun in an incredible way. I love the characters that we got to help create, and I love the characters and the world that we're in, the way that we're a part of, that story. I couldn't be, happier or more proud of the fact that we got to be the characters that we did in that way.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really fun, and we're very, very lucky to be a part of it, to be honest.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Be sure to check out Star Wars Outlaws, Low Red Moon, wherever audiobooks are sold.